believe that was the best collection of perimeter talent that college basketball has ever seen. And here's my case. Mike Bibby, first-team All-American. We're going to get back to that in a second. Yeah. Miles Simon, first-team All-American. Michael Dickerson, third-team All-American. Jason Terry, next year, the National Player of the Year. Yeah. You don't see that. I'm telling you, so when people talk about it, that was just overwhelming talent. So in hindsight, it really wasn't necessarily a Cinderella story. It felt like it at the time, obviously, because of, how it kind of backed in. But I believe that's as good a perimeter as you can ever find in college basketball, just based off the accolades, AJ.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And, that's what I've always said is like, that everyone thinks it's a Cinderella run, like you said, and sometimes it was, but the talent was always there. It was just us figuring out, Coach Olsen figuring out how to best mesh it together and allow us to play our best basketball. But if you talk about any of those guys, and it's still to this day, people are like, man, you guys had so many guards, like incredibly talented guys, and JT 20 plus years in the NBA, and
right.
A great NBA career, Miles and Mike Bibb. I mean, all of them. So, we didn't have any weaknesses, at all. And they all provided kind of different things, but they were all killers. They were all dogs, man. So.
Talk a little bit about so Bibby, I try to explain this to the younger crowd. The hype around Bibby was just insane. I remember, I snuck into the game at Sal Point when he played, I had to basically sneak in, and I'll be honest with you, when I first watched him, and keep in mind, I'm just a kid, I'm 12 at the time, and I'm watching it, and this is during the age of Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson, dudes coming in and crossing you up and dunking, and I watched it, and I came away saying that's John Stockton, not that it was bad or anything.
Yeah.
And then the more you watched him, and I remember the Red-Blue game where it was just like, man, this dude's something different.
Yeah.
Like, just talk a little bit, because I put out a tweet a while back. I believe he's the best point guard in the conference the last 30 years. I'll take him over anybody. I'll take him over Barron. I'll take him over, all those guys. Just talk a little bit about Bibby and just what it was like playing with him.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said this. I mean, Mike is the best basketball player I ever played with, in terms of just knowing every single nuance of the game at every single point. You know what I mean? If a guy hadn't touched the ball in a couple of possessions, he'd get you the ball and make sure you stayed engaged in the game. If Mike D needed to get a quick basket, he'd figure out a way to drive to the basket, get Mike D a dunk. Like, he was so smart as a basketball player, and then just not afraid ever to take a big shot and make it. You know what I mean? So he took care of the ball. He was just an all-around pure point guard that had a killer mentality. You know what I mean? And so I was talking to him last week, and I saw this interview that he posted on his social, on his IG, with Kobe talking about him. And
that was amazing.
And I said, man, that is just badass, man. That's one of the best videos you could ever have as a basketball player, is someone like that giving you that kind of compliment of, you're the best competitor I played against, and I enjoyed it the most competing against you. And that pretty much says it all about what Bib is.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the Miles kind of behind the scenes, because I watch, obviously watch like The Last Dance or whatever with Michael Jordan. I'm not saying that Miles was but I kind of imagine that being a little bit with just that indomitable will to win.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, you could see when he was ineligible, he's flying out to North Carolina to be there with you guys behind the bench. What was just Miles like, just from a leadership and just that will to win perspective?
I mean, Miles is just a winner. I mean, in life, in basketball, I mean, you still see to this day what he's doing. And you had a guy that had complete and utter confidence in himself to make a play, to make a free throw, to make a shot, to get a steal, whatever it was. He wanted to win, and he wasn't scared to do anything to win. He did have a similar, mentality to Michael Jordan, where, you didn't take plays off, you pushed your teammates, and he just believed in himself so much that we believed in him, obviously. And to come back from, I don't care what anyone says, that might be the greatest feat in NCAA history, is not to play for the first half of the season and come back and be the MVP of the Final Four and lead into a championship. I mean, nobody's ever done that. So
what people forget a lot of the time too is, you got to remember here, and again, you live in Tucson where it's a fishbowl and whatnot. People, you got to remember, because you guys are rolling at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting to come along. JT's doing his thing at the 2. Bibby, Michael Dickerson's probably the best player in the conference at that point. And then they kind of sputter a little bit, and people are, papers are asking, well, is this team better without Miles? All of that stuff. And then you just realize, and I always go back to that South Alabama game where everybody's struggling, and it's like, oh gosh, here we go. And it felt like Miles just lived at the free throw line for the last 9 minutes, basically after the team was struggling the whole time. And that was just kind of Miles encapsulated right there, that it didn't really matter. You wanted him taking those free throws.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I trusted him more than anybody to make free throws at the end of the game and to figure out how to get fouled. I mean, he was a great drawer of fouls. He knew how to do that. He knew how to use his voice to get fouls. He was just a really, really smart basketball player and just a winner. Like I said, he was just a killer every time. So, yeah, I mean, Miles was incredible.
All right, so let's talk Kansas. Most people's favorite game is, and I don't blame it at all because it's when you guys won the national championship, is Kentucky. But the game that always will stick out to me always will be Kansas. And just because Kansas was viewed as unbeatable that year. They had one loss. It was a veteran-laden team. I think Roy Williams a while back said he still considered it his best team, and I think he's probably right about that. But the thing that still sticks out to me, and I watched the game again a while back, you guys didn't look nervous in that game. You didn't look at all intimidated, and you were balling at that point. I mean, from College of Charleston on, you were killing it, but you didn't have there was clearly no nerves going against Pollard or, Rafe LaFrentz. Same with the guys. Did you guys know you were going to win that? And be honest with it, because it looks like you had a good idea.
So this is the thing, like, I mean, people, they don't always believe it, but like we knew we were going to win that game. Like beforehand, we were loose in practice. We were joking around, like laughing. I mean, still paying attention to detail for Coach O, but like we felt inside that we knew we were going to win. And that was after the first two games in South Alabama and the College of Charleston. Yeah. I don't know what came over us or why, but every single game, like we felt like we were going to win, especially against Kansas. They had knocked us out the year before that year. So we wanted some get back from that game. Right. And that was probably Mike D's best offensive game against Kansas during the tournament, and Paul Pierce, because he loved matching up and going against Paul Pierce. And just our energy and our chemistry was just perfect, man. And so we knew it. We weren't nervous. You're right. We weren't. We were
Luke was more nervous than you guys were.
Yeah, he looked like that on the sideline, didn't he? He did, but we knew.
Because Lute always just had such kind of that stoic presence and whatnot. And I'll just remember, like, when Bibby's shooting those free throws and Lute can't even look at it. And you got an 18-year-old kid. But let's talk about you, though, because, I mean, again, you were a monster in that tournament. And you went against, again, we're talking Nazir Muhammad. We're talking Pollard. We're talking, and granted, I know it's a little bit of a different position, but Austin Crozier in the Elite Eight. Just keep Serge Swicker, Antoine Jameson. You were going into each game, AJ, and you were getting like 13 and 15, 13 and 16. Did the game just slow down for you? Was it just like, I'm every bit as good, if not better than these guys? Because Arizona doesn't go anywhere without those kind of performances from you.
Yeah, I think, it's like we talked about earlier. It started to click for me, and it started to, my confidence was at an all-time high. We had played a tough schedule that year, so I'd already been playing against, that kind of competition, but didn't have the results, early in the season. But it's just really about believing in yourself. And this is what I tell, to my son and, all young players out there. You have to have just complete confidence in yourself, like we talked about with Miles. That will get you a long way. And if you have the ability and you work hard and, you pay attention to detail and you learn, you can do anything. And so during that thing, I felt free. You're right. The game was slow. I had no worries. I wasn't nervous. I was just out there playing basketball and not thinking so much, just playing. And, I say it's the best, stretch of games for my career, probably was. And we needed it, but
don't underestimate your senior year, big dog. Don't underestimate your senior year.
But it was totally free, like effortless basketball is what it was. It was fun.
So get into Kentucky game, obviously, and it goes into overtime. But I remember thinking this the entire game, and it's not often that you say, you guys just look more talented than Kentucky. Granted, I know they didn't have Derek Anderson, but just from like point guard position on, and even Mike D when he was struggling, he was still doing a really good job of chasing Ron Mercer off screens. And it just, you guys just look like a better team. I mean, that's the way it looked.
Yeah. I mean, I think that showed, early in the game. I think when they pressed us and they couldn't really turn us over at all, I think that was a shock to them. And, Bib handled that press and, I was in the middle of it for most of the game, and we just made sound decisions, got through it and, battled and fought and, I'd say our talent matched up with anybody, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Mike D wasn't at his best maybe offensively, but you're right. I mean, he was running through, triple staggers and, getting through screens, and he didn't let Mercer do anything in that game. It was just it was a fun game. I agree with our talent level, and everyone just wanted to win, and that's just like Donnell coming in off the bench and hitting free throws in overtime. Gene playing tough.
Yeah.
Everybody did a little bit of whatever, because I was in foul trouble most of that game, which sucked. But I believe totally in our guys, and we got it done.
Donnell was ready for that moment too, because I remember when, you started getting a little bit nervous because, like you said, you were in foul trouble a good percentage of the game. But man, Donnell was ready for that moment. And, I think like everybody else, we just didn't know, because, I mean, because you had really taken the bull by the horns at that point. But when Donnell came in, like you said, he was getting opportunistic rebounds. He was getting to the free throw line.
Yep.
Kind of an unsung hero in that game, AJ.
Oh, he's a hero. He's not even unsung in that way, because he came. I mean, really in overtime. I mean, there was no basket scored. It was just free throws, and Donnell did a heck of a job coming in, and at the biggest stage and the biggest time of his career, he delivered. And you're always going to remember him at the free throw line, knocking down those free throws when we needed them most. So Donnell's a great guy, man. And I'm just happy that he had that experience in that moment.